Welcome, welcome. I see lots of people popping in here. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Gretchen. How is everyone doing this fine Wednesday night? I'm going to see if I can make this comment bigger because I noticed on the last live I did that when I was looking back at them, they were not big enough. Hello. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Charlene Madrid, also known as Dreamcraft Create across social media. And I am on the Honeybee Stamps design team, have been for many years, and I go live once a month here on the Honeybee Stamps YouTube channel. So we have a fun card in store. Hi, Dorothy. Hi, is it Naomi? Oh, Naomi. Hi. I can read, I promise. So I'm going to be glancing down at the comments as I go. If you have any questions, it's always super helpful if you put question in all caps at the beginning because then I can kind of catch it and it's a little easier for me. But yeah. All right, let's go down to my desk, yeah? Let's get started. Okay, get my keyboard out of the way. So we are going to use the Summer Smiles stamps, dies, and stencils tonight. And I have used these several times already because it's just such a gorgeous set with that big large floral stamp, and then you also have that single floral and leaf set that you can add in there. Some really beautiful sentiments. It's absolutely gorgeous. Hi, Deb. And we've got coordinating layering stencils, and then of course the excuse me, coordinating dies. This set was designed by Kelly Taylor. She does some really beautiful florals. And I wanted to show you, before we get started, two of the cards that I have already made before in the past with this set. So that way you can kind of get a sense of different fun things you can do. So I just recently posted a video on my channel and on the Honeybee channel making this card with this set, and it's just kind of a fun, clean, and simple, pretty card with some bold colors. And then I did this one a couple of weeks ago with alcohol inks and with my alcohol ink markers. So if you want to see how to do either one of these, those videos are up on the Honeybee channel. So just go scroll back through. They're also on my channel. So I thought it'd be fun to show you guys those, and then when we're done, if I remember, I'll grab them again so you can see how different this one that we're gonna do today is compared to the other two. Thanks, Erica. Let me grab my stamping platform to get started. And we're gonna stamp out this gorgeous floral. What's going on with somebody's comments aren't working? Oh, Gretchen, you can't see your comments. That's no fun. I'm sorry. Let's grab a piece of white cardstock. This is just 80-pound Nina cardstock. And we're going to do a fun shaker card technique. And I'm telling you, this is the easiest shaker card you're ever going to make if you make one of these. No foam tape involved. Well, at least not for the shaker. I can't make any promises on the sentiment. So I'm going to grab the large floral stamp, and you could do this with any style of stamp, any size stamp, doesn't matter. You just want to take a look and say, okay, what do I want showing on my final card? And I know I'm going to want these florals, but I'm not sure exactly how I want them. I think I'm going to want them kind of like this. I want them to fill up our card front. In fact, I might turn this just a little bit, like so. Okay. I don't know why I stuck my top plate all the way over there. Gotta reach. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Matt. Is it Madeline? Madeline? I'm not sure. Either way, hello. You know, my youngest child is a boy. I have 3 boys. We were going for a girl on the 3rd, and we had picked out the name Madeline. So I really like that name. It's very pretty. Alas, we have a house full of boys. The only other girl in the house is one of our dogs. We have 2 dogs. One's a boy, one's a girl. So lots of fun, wild times. I've got black pigment ink, and I'm stamping with black pigment ink because I'm going to be stenciling with some really ink blending with some really light colors, and pigment ink should not interact at all with my water-based dye inks, so I won't have to worry about the black ink smearing at all while I'm doing my stenciling. So I'm going to do this a second time to build up my nice pretty bold black outline here of the floral. And you do, if you're going to do this style of card and follow this kind of technique, you want to pay attention to where you put your card panel down in your stamping platform, because you're going to stamp again on another piece of cardstock and you want to stamp in the exact same spot. Okay, so our floral is nice and ready. I'm going to pull this out and set it aside temporarily. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of teal cardstock. You can do whatever color cardstock you think is going to coordinate well with your stenciled image. You also could use pattern paper to do this, and it also would look, you get like a really cool different look. Gretchen, it took 50 years, huh? Oh, who's talking about hummingbirds? I love hummingbirds. We get them in our backyard. We have a really pretty little fountain that we have in our backyard that we can see from the kitchen window, and the birds like to come and use it for taking baths. Okay, so I'm stamping, you can see here, in the exact same spot on this teal colored cardstock, and it does not matter if that is stamped pretty. We don't care about that because we're actually going to cut out that piece and we won't be using the stamped image at all. So I'm going to set that aside and grab my die, the coordinating die here, and we're going to cut this out. Oh, of course my dog is barking. Hopefully he will knock it off. Go. Will one of you get the dog, please? Who knows what he's barking at? Probably his own shadow. I love him to death, but he is not the brightest dog. Sometimes he'll see reflections in the front door and just bark at them, and there's nobody there. We're like, what are you barking at, dude? There's nobody here. All right, I'm going to tape this in place, and we're going to grab my die cutting machine. Oh, you suffer in the heat on your porch to watch, the hummingbirds. Yeah, they just, I love, yeah, there's a joke, like when you turn 40 or 35 or something like that. I'm 45, but there's a joke that you have to pick like a hobby, and you have to either, start crafting or gardening, and one of the things is like bird watching, and I think it's very true. I like to do all of those things. Not gardening, not so much, but I do like, obviously, to craft. And yes, Coco, my dog, he definitely wants to be on too. In fact, we joke all the time that he needs his own channel. Okay, I'm gonna save these a couple of these little inset pieces here that cut out. I probably won't use all of them on the finished thing, especially not these tiny little itty bitty ones, but for now I'm gonna hang on to them. So I'm gonna take that die cut piece here, and I definitely want to save these larger portions from the top and the bottom, and then this corner here. The other pieces, this big main piece, I can save this to use in some other kind of project. You started crafting early. I started, you know, I've always been kind of creative, but I did not start card making until sometime during the pandemic. I don't remember exactly when. That's when I discovered card making. I didn't know it was like a thing, but what I used to do a lot of is cake decorating. I haven't done that in a long time, but I used to do a lot of cake decorating. And I made mostly like for my kids' birthdays, I would make their cakes. Like we had one year we had a pirate party when they were little, and so I made a treasure chest cake, and then another year it was a Super Mario themed party, so I made like a racetrack with Mario and Luigi and stuff. It was fun. I really liked doing it, but it is so time consuming to make one of those kinds of cakes. Like it's, 8 to 10 hour process, and I like being able to sit down and just knock a card out. That's what's nice about card making. I feel like you can just knock out a card in one sitting and then you move on with your life, and your little tiny piece of art is all done, which is so nice. Maybe someday I'll go back to decorating cakes, making cakes. We'll see. That shall not be today. All right, this layering stencil set, if you haven't seen it, it has, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stencils. These back two stencils are for the single floral and leaf on here. And then the first 4 are for the big floral and leaves. So I'll start with stencil number 1, and I'm just gonna line this up so that the black outline is exactly where my stencil outline is. So I can kind of see the black just coming through on the edges of the stencil. Looks pretty good. And for colors, we're going to use several different colors. I'm going to start with some pinks. So we've got Spun Sugar, Kitsch Flamingo, and Picked Raspberry. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of this is like a reddish corally pink color in my opinion, Festive Berries, and I'm going to use that too. We'll get into some greens and yellows with the leaves, but we'll start with these pinks. And this is so that our petals are going to have a variety of colors. And then I have a blending brush, a larger one, and then I have a little detail style blending brush, which is going to help add the shading to the petals and really create some nice dimension on our floral. So I'll start first with my lightest color. I'm going to do the Spun Sugar. And this is a pretty light pink. So I'm going to put down quite a bit of this spun sugar. Otherwise, it's not going to show up really well with these other darker pinks. So keep that in mind with your colors. You know, sometimes you have to put a lot of ink down depending on the color, and sometimes you just need a little tiny touch of it, I feel like. We'll get this nice and pink. You can see my black outline is staying black and it's not smearing at all with the addition of my pink ink. Pink ink. Now you notice I did not mask any of the edges of this stencil. Any of the areas that are outside of the image are actually not going to show in the final card. So that's another nice thing about this technique that we're doing, is you don't have to worry about getting ink anywhere else on your card panel because you won't see it. Okay, once we have a good amount of that down, this is my quick and dirty shading. This is what I like to do when I don't want to be super, you know, fussy, when I want it to just be quick and easy, but I still want it to have that nice shading. I'll get a little detail brush like this, get some ink, work it into the bristles, and then I'll just look towards where the base of the various petals are, and I just kind of spin up and around, not really paying too much attention to, you know, if there's other things going on there. I just kind of spin around and bring it up a little bit from that base of the petal. Now for this to work really well, you want to make sure that you've got that ink worked into your bristles. So that's why I kind of spin it on the ink pad, and then I spin it on my glass mat to make sure it's nice and worked in there. And you can already see that's created some fun variation and shading at the base of those petals. And it's a little more noticeable in real life. Hopefully that's picking up well on the camera. Hi Laura, good evening. Well, I'm glad you made it. Erica, I'm not sure if I said hi. Pretty color. Yeah, you know, spun sugar is very pretty color, and it's not one that I use very often, but I think it's actually really pretty. We'll set aside stencil number 1 somewhere where I don't make a mess. And we'll grab stencil 2. Now this stencil does some of the petals and it does some of the leaves. So I'm going to be a little more careful with this stencil, just so I make sure I don't color in leaves with like pink. I suppose you could have pink leaves if you wanted to, but that's not what we're going for today. I think that looks pretty good there. So put that down. So in the first set, I did the spun sugar and the Kitsch Flamingo. Now, a great way to get variety in your florals, if you're wanting to, like in this case, we're doing pink, right? Is for some of the petals, use like the lightest and the next shade. And then when you move on to the next set of petals, use that shade and move on to something slightly darker. So in this instance, we used spun sugar and Kitsch Flamingo. So now I'm going to pick up Kitsch Flamingo for the petals and then bring in that picked raspberry for the shading on those. I am going to grab a little bit of masking tape here because I tend to get a little bit like, you know, ink blending happy. And so this time I want to make sure I don't color those leaves that are on this stencil with my pinks. So I'm just gonna lightly mark those off so I know, hey girly, don't be coloring them pink. Now I think I've got them both marked off. I don't think anything else is leaves. So I'll pick up the Kitsch Flamingo, which again is what we used for the shading on that first set of petals. And I'll do an all over now of these petals with that color. And I'm not getting a ton of ink on my brush. I always prefer to use less ink and then add more if I need to, because it's so much easier that way. Then you don't have to worry about like messing stuff up, I feel like. This is one of my favorite pinks, the Kitsch Flamingo. It's got that pretty retro vibe to it. I like to use it on Christmas cards, actually. I don't think any of this is, yeah. Just making sure those aren't spots that needed to be colored. Okay, we've got some pretty Kitsch Flamingo down. Now I'll do the same thing for the shading, but this time I'm gonna grab the picked raspberry, which is the next darkest shade kind of in. And you know, they don't, for the distress inks, they don't necessarily like put them in families per se, but they do tend to have groupings, groupings that work well. And so I just follow the, like on the Ranger website, you can download the kind of little sheet that shows all of the ink colors, and that can help you figure out which sort of color families there are for the distress inks. So again, just starting towards the base of any of these open areas and swirling. And that's going to give us that little bit of shading coming out from those. And there's might be areas of your stencil where you just want to kind of hold it down with your finger temporarily while you do that, so that way it stays in place. I think that one looks pretty good. Let's move on here to this side. There's one here. And in here, we'll get some of that pretty shading. And this inside of this floral, blah, blah. See if I can talk. Floral. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. There we go. So now I'm going to take these off so we can do our leaves that are on this portion of the stencil. Hey Brandon, hi Sherry. Welcome to Wednesday night. Now why, see, I changed that earlier. I think that's probably a good size. Okay, let's see. What did I miss? Yes, exactly. Lisa, Tim would say there's a grunge color family and then an everything else color family. That's exactly right. You know, and it's easy with, I feel like, the distress inks to associate them with grunge. But really, like, there are lots of fun, pretty colors in the distress family. I find that I have to sort of ignore the name of the color. If I just look at what the color looks like, I'm more likely to reach for it. So, you know, like this is Festive Berries, and you could really easily be like, oh, Festive Berries, that means it's a Christmas color. I use it with my Christmas cards. Well, okay, but it's really just a kind of a dark pink coral color. So you could use it on all kinds of different things. And it's really easy to forget that. So I encourage you to just look at the colors and not their names, in case you're like me. I'm gonna close a couple of these up because we're gonna use Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn for our greens. And you know what I didn't grab was a detail brush for my leaves. So let me grab another little shader brush. Same deal on these guys. I'm gonna get some of the Twisted Citron, work it into my brush, and I'll do an all over of that Twisted Citron. And really this is just kind of a bright, summery green. I find that this works really well with the Mowed Lawn for leaves. So once I have an all over of that, I can grab the detail brush, pick up a little bit of that Mowed Lawn, same thing, work it in the bristles, and just pull it up and onto my leaf from the base. I also, on leaves, like to bring in some of that darker color on the tips as well. That makes it so that your leaf looks like it's bent like this. Brandon, for me, it's mustard seed and tea dye for a yellow. Yeah, it's like, these names, they're fun, but they mess with my head sometimes. Okay, pretty leaf. Do you see that easy highlight we got on there? Barely did any work. And then we're gonna do this leaf up here. So just shift my masking tape so I don't mess anything up. Grab more of that Twisted Citron, color this one in. And you could get super fancy and do extra colors of green for the other leaves on the next stencil. I'm just going to use the exact same greens. We'll get a little bit of that Mowed Lawn, circle it out from the base like so. Grab a little more and bring it in from the tip. And we're good. So we're done with stencil 2. Peel this guy up. And so you can see we already have a nice variation in pinks, and it's not like crazy either. It's just enough that you're getting like a feeling of movement, because really that's what we want to do. Oh, you got rid of your oxides, Brandon. Ah, I love my oxides. They're near and dear to my heart for, in particular, I mostly use them if I'm wanting to create an ink blended background, because I find them to just blend so smoothly and so quickly, which is nice, because you can just kind of, in my experience with the oxides anyway, you can just really slap the color on the paper and not worry too much, right? Oh, you never used them for blending, huh? Wow. See, everybody's just got such different I love hearing like what people use for what, because it's just insightful. I don't know. Same, Sherry. So I'm telling you, I just kind of forget about them sometimes, mostly because I have in the Distress inks, I have all the minis, and in the oxides, I have the full-size ink pads, and they're up on my giant ink wall I have over there. And so I will forget about the minis because they're kind of tucked away in a drawer, and I'm trying to get better about it. All right, I'm gonna mask off. I'm gonna try and feel around. I think there's an opening here. Yep, so I'm gonna mask off that leaf, and then these are leaves here. That's a petal, it's a petal. Okay, so we wanna mask this area. right there. And then just in case, I'll put some masking there too. Okay, so we did the Spun Sugar and the Kitsch Flamingo for the first set of petals. And then we did Kitsch Flamingo and Picked Raspberry. Now we're gonna do Picked Raspberry and the Festive Berries. And this is gonna, you know, don't be shocked, because it's gonna be a little different, because we're going a little darker with that Festive Berries. But I think it's just like a fun combo. It's unexpected, I feel like. So we'll bring in that Picked Raspberry, color all the rest of these pretty petals, and get this flower done. I didn't catch who said it, but somebody earlier said they like to use stencils for all of their coloring now. And like, I don't know, I'm not hating on that, because stencils, man, they make the process so much faster, right? I like coloring, but this would be, you know, a long process if I was coloring with my alcohol markers on this. So now I'll grab that Festive Berries. And the nice thing about going from light to dark, I don't have to worry about cleaning off my brushes, because I have gone from light to dark. So everything will just seamlessly come together. So same kind of thing, I've got a little bit on my brush, spinning out from the base of those petals, just to create that little bit of extra darkness in there. And you can see what a pretty pop that is, right? You don't want to overdo it, and I have a tendency sometimes of overdoing things, so I'm trying to make sure I am not overdoing it. Just adding little pops of that pretty Festive Berries in here, right along the base of those. As Bob Ross would say, we'll put a happy little tree here, a happy little tree here. You don't have to think about it, just happy little trees. All right. We're done with that. Now let's take our masking tape off, and we're going to do our leaves now. So just make sure, and there's one more stencil for the rest of the leaves, it looks like. I'll get this leaf up here, going back to our Twisted Citron. All in, baby, with that lovely Twisted Citron. Oh, I'm missing comments, y'all. Let's see. I scrolled back up earlier, and then this is what happens to me. Yes, Brandon, they do have a very particular chalkiness to them. So it's definitely a vibe. And for some people, it is not their vibe. So I completely understand that. We'll grab our Mowed Lawn. Doing the one side of the petal and the tips. And the same principles apply when you are using alcohol ink markers, frankly. To get this kind of movement and highlight in a leaf, I always will bring my color in from each side of the leaf. It gives you that same highlight. Now we gotta do this one down here. Agreed, Lisa, that is a really pretty result. You thought the alcohol ink marker was faster, Brandon? Oh my gosh. I'm such a slow colorer. So, okay. All right. Lindy, you're my people. Lisa, that's the thing on this. You don't have to worry about the corners. Those are not going to show in the final card at all, which makes this a nice technique because you don't have to do too much masking. You just want to make sure you don't get your leaves. And that's just because of how this stencil is set up. If you were using a stencil that didn't have multiple areas to color in the stencil, then you wouldn't even have to worry about any masking. Okay, Twisted Citron. So pretty. I love when it all just like starts to come together and you can see everything. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Grab my lawn and bring it in. And I'll do a little bit on this part. I'm not going to bring it up too far. I'm just pretending that there is a point over here that it can't be seen. That goes off of there. So we'll take this stencil off. Pretty, 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 pretty. Set it over here. And this is our final stencil. And we'll get it on here. Hopefully my big head isn't too much in the way. But we want to make a nice and pretty card, right? Okay, that looks good. Now, there are a couple of things on here. We've got the center stamen of the flowers, and then we also have these leaves. So I'm going to start with the leaves, and we'll get those done real quick. And this is what I was saying, like if you wanted to be super fancy, you could bring in a couple of different shades of green and do some of your leaves a little darker. But we're going to just stick with this same palette to keep it nice and simple. Okay, we got the main leaves. Now we'll grab our mowed lawn, bring some up here from the base, and some over here. And then we'll do this one. So for this one, I'm bringing it from what would be the base of that leaf, but I'm also going to bring it up over here because this area right here would have a little bit of shading because it is behind that big floral. And then I'll bring some on this other edge as well. That looks good. So our leaves are done. And then, yeah, Madeline, oxides are great for Halloween backgrounds. I agree. I like to use the sprays. Yep, Brandon, you were saying you use the sprays. Yeah. I like the mica and I like the plain spray stain. They're both really fun. Okay, I made it back down to the bottom of the comments. So, hopefully I can pay attention now. So what I was going to mention earlier, and then of course I got sidetracked because I can't stay on one thing, was the stamens. Now that area all got colored in pink. So what do? Well, we're just going to bring in yellow because I'm going to add yellow, and that is going to make that area orange, and so it'll stand out a little bit. Easy peasy. So we'll bring in our yellow and color this in. Like so. And hopefully I got it lined up correctly. I kind of did that faster than I normally would. I think it's okay. I think we're good. Okay. Let's peel and reveal. Oh, and there's our pretty flowers. all colored in. We've got some fun variation and shading going on. I don't think the camera really picks it up as well as it looks in real life, but it's got a lot of variation from where I'm sitting. Let's close up our inks so I don't stick my fingers in them. Get these out of here. Get all this stuff out of here. And let's clean off our glass. I'm gonna bend my sticky mat to take this off because that makes it so much easier. Then you don't have to worry about your panel getting warped or anything like that. Set it aside so I don't get water on it. And then we will just spray some water. Grab a paper towel and, oh, I already grabbed a paper towel. Durr. Oh, thanks, Gretchen. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Jennifer, you guys are very sweet. Thank you. You know, it's just, honestly, the more cards you make, the better you get. Like, and like I found for me anyway, that I tend to do well if I focus on a technique for a little while. Like if you, oh wait, you guys aren't talking to me. Wait, no. Oh, you're talking about Happy Joy cards. Your booth looked great for the event you just did. Who's Happy Joy cards? Gosh, see, I just don't know enough. Well, I bet your booth, I'm sure, looked fabulous. Absolutely. I'm going to have to figure more out about that. Okay, so we've got this ready. We're going to grab our cut pieces that we did first. For those of you that came in late, so simple. I stamped out the Summer Smiles stamp onto an A2 panel of white cardstock. Then at the exact same time, I stamped out onto a dark teal piece of cardstock the same stamp in the same place. And then I die cut out the floral on the dark teal cardstock, right? So that's all you missed at the beginning. And you can see kind of where we're going. We're going to take these negative pieces and they're going to fill in these various areas on our finished card. But before we get to that point, we've got to create the shaker. And this is the simplest shaker card ever. I am convinced. These are Cello bags. Cello, I'm not sure how you say it. Honeybee Stamp sells them. They're in the supply list, but they're just 4x6. And their finished width, though, is 4 1/8 inch, about 4 1/4 inches, really. I think it's kind of off because if you hold it here, you can see it's about 4 1/4 inches. Now, what you want to do, though, is you want to trim your panel down just slightly so that you can put it in the bag and still have room for your shaker pieces to move around. So we're going to grab a paper trimmer. And this does not have to be super fancy. We're just going to trim a tiny little sliver off of each side. Okay, but you want to try and kind of make that sliver kind of equal. So I'm going to do kind of, how many times can Charlene say kind of in a live? I don't know, a lot. About a 1/16 of an inch, I would say, is about what I'm going to do off of all 4 sides. And I'm just eyeballing it. I am not too concerned because the finished product, you won't even be able to tell. So we're gonna take those 4 sides off, and then we're gonna test. We're gonna say, okay, let's see. How does this fit in our little cello bag? It fits pretty good. Good. Yep. Look at that. We've still got some room in there because you don't need very much shaker mix at all. That's the other nice thing about this technique. We're going to grab these really pretty opal embellishments. This is the opal confetti mix. I saw this at the Honeybee warehouse when I was there for the Honeybee event they did like 2 years ago. And I fell in love with it. It's such a pretty mix. And I have used it many, many times. So look at that. I'm just gonna kind of pour some in there. You don't need very much at all to get the shaker effect. I think that's probably plenty. And if I, you know, it's just personal preference, but I like to not put too many so that way it can kind of stay flat if I decide I want to mail it and I don't have to worry about extra postage and that kind of stuff. So we'll close this up. And then this is how easy it is. There's a little piece of release tape. Pull that off. You fold it over. Try and keep it somewhat straight. And lay it down. Okay. Now you cannot tell me that there is an easier way to make a shaker card than that. It is literally the easiest way to make a shaker in the whole world. Okay? So highly, highly recommend it. Now we can come in and we're gonna add our negative pieces onto the front. So I'm gonna grab some glue. You could use glue, you can use double-sided tape. Maybe I'll use double-sided tape. Let's see. Whatever you got. Glue totally works. It just takes, you know, more time to dry. Let's see if I can find the end. And this one is terrible, so hopefully this will go fast. So, not terrible, tearable, like you can tear it. I want to make sure that that was clear. Stick it through my fingers. Come on you go. Where's my pokey? My pokey tool. My favorite tool in the whole wide world. I love this thing. I use it for everything. Okay, we're gonna piece this in here, and this does not, like I said, have to be perfect. You just, because you want to just get kind of the general idea that this is meant to block the outer edge of the floral. And I'm gonna, no, I'll leave it. I was gonna clip this in half, but changed my mind. Yeah, and they have several, yes, Lisa, they have several different sizes of these. So just when you're looking at them, think about whatever you want your finished sized card to be, and you want to make sure that the outer edges of the cello bag are that size. So like this is a 4x6 bag, but the finished size, the finished width is 4 1/4. So it works perfectly for an A2 size card. I hope that makes sense as I'm saying it. So this is why I said at the beginning, this works for any stamp with any stamp and die set that you have. You can do this fun kind of like negative die shaker. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a negative die shaker. Okay. Let's take the release tape off now. And what? Am I missing something? No. Okay, we've got it. Success. Where are we at in time? 5:50. Yay! I think we're gonna keep it to an hour. That always makes me happy when I can get it all done in an hour. Because sometimes it's hard to get it done in an hour. Especially if I'm doing like super fancy coloring or something. Okay, so I'm going to kind of lay one side down. Oh, just kidding. I'm going to pull that back up. I didn't like where it was. I am going to clip this in half. It's a little unwieldy because it's got that one little spot right there. So we're going to do this side like so. Okay, and then we're going to do this side. And I think that looks pretty good. Put that down. Then we have this little guy here. And you could keep as many of the insets to add as you want. Obviously, the smaller they are, the more fussy it's going to be. I think I am going to put the inset that goes there. I'm going to grab the tweezers so my big fat fingers don't get in the way. There we go. And I'll probably just add a little bit of glue on that tiny piece right there to keep it down, or I might clip it off. We'll see. Now where is, I think it's this piece. I want the inset here. I think it's here. Is that right? Yeah. Where's my glue? Let's grab my glue. And we'll put a little glue on the back of the inset pieces because they're just kind of, they're finicky. It's too hard to use double-sided tape, I feel like, on these little ones. Now you could, before you die cut out your colored cardstock, you could put a double-sided adhesive sheet if you wanted to, and that then you don't have to mess with any double-sided tape or anything like that. So that's going to create a fun little window here. And there's a couple more inset pieces. I don't think I'm gonna put them on. I might change my mind later, but for now I think that's what I'm gonna stick with. Oh, I did want to put glue on this little edge here. I'm just gonna put a teeny tiny little dab of glue back there so that it'll stay in place. There we go. Now we can add this onto our card base. And I'm gonna, what am I doing? Get your life together, Charlene. I'm gonna use some wider double-sided tape for this. I just find it to be much easier. You could, again though, use glue. It will dry. It just takes a little while with glue. And I find that I am impatient and I like to use the double-sided tape. I'm a very impatient crafter. That is why I have to have all of the tools to dry everything. And because if I can avoid it, I don't like leaving a card overnight. The only time I will make an exception for that is if I've used glossy accents, and the payoff for that is just totally worth the time. Laura, oh, Lisa, you would have you think the white would bug you? Yeah, you know, it's whatever your preference is. You also could add a little bit of like marker, get a coordinating marker if you wanted to, and fill in any of those little spots with maybe like a light blue or something like that if you think that would bug you. Lots of different things you could do on that. Okay, I'm going to set this here and then line up the bottom with my scoreboard. No, I'm not, because it's not wanting to sit where I want it to behave thing. Okay, line this up. Why am I on the struggle bus here? Okay, line up thing. I think my card base is bigger than my card panel, than my outer panel. It is, just slightly. That's why. Un momento, por favor, while I trim a little bit off of my card base. You guys don't do this at home. You're not supposed to remove that. Pay no attention to what I just did. It is not safe. Why is my card base so huge? I don't know. All right, we're going to trim off just a little bit here and see if that's good. Come on. There we go. Take two. Let's try again. Now, let's see. It should be good. I'm just going to lay this over the top because I am having troubles here. And then I'll trim off anything that is bothering me. Yeah. See, the bottom needs to be trimmed too. Oh well. Now, we have... I went ahead and in advance I stamped out a sentiment, sending summer smiles, and just in case we got low on time. And this comes from the same summer smiles stamps, and so you could pop this up with some foam tape if you wanted to. I think I am going to. Let's grab some foam squares. Lisa, you've tried to remove mine. Too scared to break that. Yeah. Yeah, I perform, I do a lot of things that are probably not technically what you're supposed to do. So, you know, do as I say, not as I do, as the saying goes. I tend to use things maybe not always the way that the manufacturer intended them to be used. Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay, let's trim. It's right in front of my face. I'm gonna trim down a little foam square here. And we'll use that to pop up our sentiment. I like to make sure everything is nice and supported. I will use an excessive amount of foam tape if I need to. You know, you spend all that time on a card, you want it to just work. And you don't want your sentiment getting smushed when you've spent so much time putting things together. Up peel these off. Almost there. One more. Okay. I'll try and get this straight. We're gonna just drop it down right around here. I feel like I like to use this bottom section of my cards to add sentiments. Let's see. Oop, do I want it up, or I think I like it there. Right around the third line, which is about 1 3/4 inches from the bottom. You could do it centered. I prefer to do mine towards the right. And there we go. We have a fun little shaker card that's pretty flat. I mean, it just has that little bit from the confetti that's in there, and then from the sentiment we have on the front. But really, really easy to do, not hard. Just don't pay any attention to that white part at the bottom. I'm gonna trim that off. That was my fault. My original, my card base, I apparently did not cut correctly. So if you missed the intro, these are 2 other cards that I have made using this stamp set. The videos showing how I made these are on the Honeybee Stamps channel and are on my channel as well. So lots of inspiration available for this set, and you can see there's lots and lots of different ways to use it, right? And there is also these cute little sub-sentiments that you can use, and there's that individual leaf. So if you wanted to do like layered die cuts with multiple pieces, you could do that as well with this set. I think it's a really, really pretty set. Has anybody noticed if Lisa's in the comments? I don't know if we're doing a giveaway. Lisa, oh, you asked a question. Do I recommend the 4x6 bags over the A2 plus bags? Yes. So the A2 size bags are meant to fit a finished A2 size card, if that makes sense. So they are meant to be able to slide this card into to keep it like safe and protected. They're little protective bags, but then it's going to be bigger than an A2 sized envelope when you're done. So you wouldn't be able to use those bags in an A2 sized envelope to mail. Hopefully that makes sense. The 4x6 bags though, I'll show you again. These, it says 4 1/8, but that's not accurate. They finish, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you can see their finished outer edge is 4 1/4 inches. So these will fit perfectly inside an A2 sized envelope. That's why I have found that they are perfect for making A2 size shaker cards. So you just want to pay attention to whatever that outside measurement is. Let's see. Oh, well, I was gonna, I haven't seen Lisa come in, so I guess we're not doing a giveaway tonight, guys. Sorry. I never know exactly what's going on. But I do have a couple of things to let you know before I let you go. One, Leah will not be here next week. I'm going to be covering her live for her next week. So I will be back again next, let me show you my giant face. I will be back again next Wednesday, same time, 7 o'clock Central. I'm on the West Coast, so that's 5 o'clock Pacific. And next Monday, in case you don't know, there's going to be a release party because we have a new release coming out on Monday. And I can't tell you very much about it other than it's so cute. So cute. I'm sure if Brandon is here, he will back me up on that. But there are some adorable things in there. Just really, really good variety. But that release party is on Monday at, I can't remember what time it is. Whatever time they normally are, though, I don't think it's changed. And then, so that means when I'm here live on Wednesday, I'll be making something with the new release. So that's exciting. And I have some ideas. I have some fun things up my sleeve, I think. And then, let's see, what will be the rotation? I'm filling in for Leah, so then Leah will be back again the following week, and then Mari, and then so on and so forth. But you won't see me for a little while because I switched with Leah. So I'm doing 2 weeks in a row, but then you won't see me for a while again. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you found this technique fun and inspiring. Let me know in the comments if you did. That helps us out on the YouTube algorithm. Like, share, leave a comment, all those fun things that the YouTube people like to see. We always appreciate that. And I hope that you guys all have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.